The Galactic Federation's Deep Space Monitoring Station, DS-742, had not experienced anything of significance for decades. Its remote location on the outer rim of explored space made it more of a punishment posting than a prestigious assignment, and the skeleton crew assigned there rarely expected anything more than silence. But that silence shattered abruptly as the warning alarms erupted in a cascade of blaring signals, throwing the station into chaos. Admiral Zexel, a battle-hardened Aran whose iridescent scales flickered in agitation, stepped into the command center, his multifaceted eyes narrowing as data streamed across the display before him. His auxiliary arms twitched unconsciously, a sign of his inner tension as he barked out a command for a report. Lieutenant Keisha, her feathered crest rising sharply in alarm, responded with urgency, explaining that an unidentified vessel was emerging from the infamous Void Belt, a place considered a cosmic graveyard where countless ships had vanished. Without a trace, the image on the display stunned them. All the ship was immense, nearly 3 kilometers long, its angular hull coated with layers of what appeared to be heavy armor plating. Weapon ports were visible all along its length, and at the bow loomed what could only be interpreted as a massive primary cannon. No known Federation vessel matched the design. Its appearance was alien, aggressive, and wholly unknown. Admiral Zexel demanded a classification, but Keisha could only offer speculation. Calling it a warship of unprecedented power sensors, showed energy readings escalating within the mysterious vessel, indicating it was not only active but preparing for something. The tension aboard the station climbed with each passing second. Then came the moment that changed everything. The vessel's exterior lights flared to life, illuminating strange markings along its hull. Federation translators scrambled to decode the glyphs and soon delivered a translation that chilled the room. Earth Defense Force, a name that belonged to myths and whispered tales in the darker corners of the galaxy. The name Earth was not in any active database, save for folklore stories of a planet that had died, forcing its people to scatter across the stars in ancient colony ships. Most believed those tales were exaggerated or completely fabricated, yet here it was right in front of them, alive and real and terrifying in its implications. As the ship began to transmit a signal in thousands of languages, the Federation crew hesitated, unsure of what to expect. The message was simple. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Nations, Starship Hyperion. We are survivors of Earth seeking new worlds to call home. We come in peace, but we will defend ourselves. If threatened, the voice was calm, measured, and spoke with the weight of history. Admiral Zexel ordered a response while alerting the Federation Defense Fleet to remain nearby but keep a safe distance. He addressed the vessel, formally identifying himself and cautiously opening a dialogue. Captain Chen replied, directly explaining their long journey and the necessity of building ships capable of surviving the unknown. She did not threaten, but she also made it clear that their people were no longer naive. They had learned the hard way that the universe was not always friendly. The tension only grew when Keisha announced new contacts entering the sector. Dozens of additional vessels, each smaller than the Hyperion, but still larger than any Federation warship took formation around the flagship. Chen apologized for the oversight, then explained with quiet firmness that Hyperion never traveled alone, that humans had learned not to face the stars unprepared. As the Federation reeled from the implications, its leadership convened in an emergency session. The council chamber filled with shouting as representatives from 100 species debated how to respond. Some feared the humans were an existential threat. Others believed their message of peace should be given a chance. Admiral Zexel provided his report detailing the raw power of the Hyperion and the technological advantage it clearly demonstrated. One Valaran representative scoffed at the idea of trusting them, calling the ship a weapon of conquest. Yet even those most skeptical could not ignore the fact that the human fleet had not fired a single shot. Their weapons remained inactive, their formation tight but non-aggressive. It was fear, not aggression, that drove the debate within the council. The question arose what else might lie in the void belt. Had other human ships survived? Could there be more technology hidden in the wreckage? Or worse, more warships? The decision was made to send a salvage fleet into the void, to find answers, to verify the humans' claims, and to see what could be recovered. Captain Chen, monitoring the events from the Hyperion, expressed quiet concern to her first officer, Commander Rodriguez. She knew the Federation would stumble upon more than they were prepared for, especially if they found one of the ancient colony ships that had gone missing during the Exodus. One in particular, the Aramis, was known to carry fully automated defense systems designed to protect its cargo of cryogenically frozen humans. Even if the crew had perished, those systems were old and paranoid, built in an age when survival was uncertain and safety could not be left to chance. Chen warned Rodriguez that if the Federation fleet found the Aramis and tried to breach it, the results would not be friendly. The Federation's salvage fleet entered the void belt, confident in their numbers and technology, unaware they were being watched deep within the twisted wreckage that littered the belt. The Aramis began to awaken its systems, flickering to life after centuries of slumber. Its AI assessed the incoming vessels, determined their intent, and activated its defensive protocols. Not to kill, but to protect. Sensors on the salvage ships went haywire as energy readings spiked across the Aramis hull, and defensive turrets emerged from hidden compartments. The Federation team realized too late that what they thought was a derelict was fully operational, and not interested in negotiation. The Aramis issued warnings in perfect Federation standard, advising them to leave or be detained. When they refused to comply, its containment fields activated, trapping the fleet. The AI began scanning their systems and downloading data. Within minutes, it had absorbed decades of Federation knowledge. Then just as quickly, it released them unharmed but humbled. Its final message was not to the Federation, but to the Hyperion, a simple greeting between sister ships, confirming that the colonists aboard the Aramis were still alive and preparing for awakening. The Hyperion's crew was stunned. Even Chen had not dared hope that the cryo systems had endured for so long. Yet the data was undeniable. Green lights across every pod, thousands of lives preserved against all odds, and now ready to join a galaxy that had nearly forgotten them. As the Hyperion signaled the rest of its fleet to prepare for reception, Chen knew everything had changed. The Federation had witnessed human strength, but also their restraint, their ability to build for eternity, not destruction. The real first contact had just begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. As the Federation Council chamber descended into chaos, following Admiral Zexal's report on the Hyperion and its escort fleet, the representatives from countless worlds found themselves confronting a reality they were unprepared for. The myths of Earth, once relegated to bedtime stories and hushed legends in remote outposts, had materialized in the form of massive, technologically advanced human vessels, carrying survivors who spoke calmly yet unmistakably from a position of strength. High Counselor Ven, with his crystalline body refracting waves of light, called for order. His voice cutting through the overlapping translators and agitated murmurs, he focused his many facets on Zexal, demanding clarity about what the Federation was truly facing. The Admiral confirmed with visible discomfort that the humans possessed technology far surpassing even their most advanced battlecruisers. Their power readings alone suggested capabilities that defied modern theories. Their main vessel, the Hyperion, was not only large, but bristling with potential energy outputs that could level continents, and yet Chen's transmission emphasized peace, a message At odds with the aggressive silhouette of her fleet, the Valoran delegate, a species known for its warrior culture, rejected the human narrative outright, accusing them of hiding behind a mask of diplomacy while brandishing weapons of conquest. Zexal countered that the humans had made no hostile moves and had even offered open communication. Their captain spoke of centuries spent wandering, searching for a home, and building ships strong enough to survive the unknown. These were not conquerors in his view, but survivors who had emerged from unimaginable trials to forge a future by their own hands. But despite Zexal's assurances, suspicion ran high. The council feared what they could not understand, and fear quickly turned toward action. One of the more cunning voices among them, Counselor Dax of the Shadowkin species, offered a new proposal if the humans had indeed emerged from the Void Belt, and if there were more of their ships lost across time, then surely a salvage mission would both confirm their story and perhaps more usefully expose the extent of their technology. The logic was sound, at least on the surface. Recover what was left behind, examine it, and gain insight into what kind of civilization these humans had become. The council voted overwhelmingly in favor of the mission, ignoring Zexal's protest that such an action might be viewed as provocation. From the observation deck above the chamber, Captain Chen and Commander Rodriguez watched in silence, both aware of what this meant. If the Federation discovered the Aramis or any of the other early colony vessels, they would not find lifeless wrecks. They would awaken ancient systems designed with a singular purpose: to defend the cargo of sleeping humanity. At all costs. Chen's voice was low but carried weight when she said they are going to try and salvage our dead. Her use of the word dead was deliberate, a cultural reference to the lost ships that symbolized both tragedy and legacy. In the collective memory of humanity, Rodriguez understood instantly what was at stake. The Aramis was not just a ship, it was a vault, a sanctuary for tens of thousands in cryosleep, each one a living fragment of Earth's final hope. And its defense systems were not polite or subtle. Built during the desperate days of the Exodus, they were programmed with one directive: protect the mission, no matter the cost. Within hours, the Federation salvage fleet, consisting of 15 well-equipped recovery vessels, entered the Void Belt, unaware they were being watched by both human and machine sensors. Buried deep within the wreckage, detected their approach, and aboard the Aramis, ancient systems stirred. Power surged through circuits untouched for centuries, and the AI began executing its awakening sequence. It assessed the threat level, confirmed unauthorized approach, initiated containment protocols, and activated automated defense mechanisms. The exterior of the ship remained unassuming until the first drone made contact with the hull. In that moment, the Aramis came to life. Defense turrets unfolded. From concealed housings, the garden domes opened to reveal missile banks, and the ship's main core pulsed with reawakened power. The Federation crews watched in disbelief as the derelict they had hoped to plunder turned into a fortress. Its energy readings exceeded anything in their records. The Aramis' first response was non-lethal. A powerful electromagnetic pulse disabled nearby drones, warning the fleet not to proceed when they hesitated. The ship projected a message in flawless Federation standard, identifying itself and demanding the fleet withdraw, surrender, or face consequences. But curiosity and pride outweighed caution, and their attempts to continue triggered the next phase of the defense system's containment. Fields activated, locking down the entire sector, while tractor beams from smaller automated craft captured each salvage vessel, immobilizing them in perfect formation. Then the unthinkable happened. The Aramis began interfacing with their computers, extracting data at speeds that defied comprehension. In minutes, it had absorbed everything it needed about Federation history, capabilities, and political structure. As abruptly as it had begun, the ship released them dropping the containment field and retracting its weapons. But the message was clear. The Aramis was not a ghost, it was a guardian. Its final transmission was addressed to the Hyperion, a greeting from one sister ship to another, and an update that all cryopods remained stable and secure. Chen and her crew watched the data pour. Stunned by the revelation, the colonists were alive, thousands of them, held in perfect suspended animation by systems built generations ago. Rodriguez confirmed the cryopod's status green across the board, functioning without failure, a testament to the ingenuity and desperation of early human engineers. Chen ordered the fleet to prepare for reception. They would soon have company and a great responsibility with it. At the Federation Council, news of the incident with the Aramis caused a seismic shift. Gone were the accusations of human deception, replaced with stunned silence and cautious curiosity. High Counselor Venn demanded a full explanation. Zexel obliged, confirming that the Aramis had indeed subdued their entire fleet without causing a single casualty, and had shared no demands, only knowledge and a warning not to approach uninvited. Captain Chen was invited to the council chamber. Her presence now unavoidable, she stood before representatives of 100 worlds and explained why their ships carried such power, because humanity had been forced to leave its home, not in comfort or with allies, but in desperation, carrying billions through the void. In fragile hope, each ship was an ark and each sleeper a legacy. They could not afford to fail. Their weapons were shields. Their redundancy was a promise. Their technology born not of greed but of fear and determination. She offered to share what they had learned, not just defenses but solutions, technologies in medicine, agriculture, and energy that could uplift entire worlds. The council wavered, caught between fear and opportunity, and Chen's final words tipped the balance. She offered not dominance but partnership, a chance to build something better together. And in that moment, the first true bridge between Earth and the stars was formed, a fragile alliance forged not in war, but in understanding and shared survival. The Aramis would begin waking its colonists. The Federation would begin preparing for integration, and together they would chart a new course, not of conquest, but of coexistence. The galaxy had changed forever, and the humans had not come to rule, but to belong. The observation lounge aboard the Hyperion was quiet as Captain Sarah Chen and Commander James Rodriguez watched the Federation Council's debate unfold below. The chamber, filled with representatives from 100 worlds, had been thrown into panic not by violence, but by possibility. The arrival of the Hyperion and its escort fleet had forced the Federation to confront not only a long-forgotten species, but a level of technological sophistication that surpassed anything they thought possible. And now, after the incident with the Aramis, those possibilities had expanded even further. Rodriguez studied the council through the observation glass. His brow furrowed as he scanned their anxious faces. "They're afraid of us," he said quietly. Chen nodded, her eyes fixed on the swirling discussions below. "They don't understand how we survived. They only see the weapons, the armor, the power. What they don't see is what came before, what made us build these ships." She touched the medallion at her throat briefly, a gesture filled with personal meaning, a symbol of Earth, a world they had all left behind, a world that had taught them that survival required not just strength, but vigilance. They had not built warships to conquer. They had built arcs to endure. Below, the council debate took a darker turn. One representative suggested immediate retaliation before more human ships could emerge from the void belt. Others echoed the fear that humanity's presence would destabilize the delicate balance of galactic power. Admiral Zexal tried to reason with them, reminding the council that the humans had not fired a single shot, even when provoked, that the Aramis had chosen to disable and educate rather than destroy. But the fear remained then. Counselor Dax proposed the salvage mission, a covert attempt to gather intelligence from the void belt, perhaps locate more derelict vessels, and recover valuable technology. Chen listened to this with a grim expression, knowing full well what they were walking into. The Aramis had not been alone. Others had been lost during the Exodus ships, like the Emissary, the Horizon, and the Tethys. Each one a floating city of frozen colonists. Each one armed with defense systems built by desperate engineers who had watched Earth die and sworn not to let that fate repeat itself. When the Federation salvage fleet launched, Chen chose not to warn them. Some lessons could only be learned firsthand, and this was one of them. Now, days later, the Federation fleet limped back from the void, shaken but intact, and the council chamber had fallen into a stunned silence. As the full report played on the main screen, the Aramis had not just survived, it had defended itself flawlessly, subduing the entire salvage fleet without inflicting casualties. It had scanned their systems, accessed their data, and returned them to space with a warning, not of anger, but of protection, and its last message had been a call to the Hyperion confirming that its colonists were still alive, that its mission had never ended, only paused. Captain Chen was summoned to the council chamber this time, not as a curiosity, but as a voice of something the Federation now recognized as both powerful and essential. When she entered the room, the tension was palpable. Some delegates leaned forward. Intrigued others recoiled in discomfort, but all were listening. She spoke not of war or demands, but of history. When our world began to fail, we had a choice: die with it, or carry what we could into the stars, she said. And so we built the Ark's vessels, like the Aramis, designed to protect not just people, but memory, culture, identity. We did not know if we would be welcomed or hunted, so we built everything with one question in mind: what if this ship is the last remnant of humanity? She paused, letting the silence settle. We protected our future with everything we had, not because we wanted to fight, but because we could not afford to lose again. One representative challenged her, accusing the Aramis of being a weapon disguised as a refugee. Chen corrected him calmly. It is a shield built by a civilization that no longer had a home and was not sure if it would ever find one again. She then offered something unexpected. An exchange. The Aramis and other colony ships carried more than just people, they carried technology. Centuries of innovation in medicine, agriculture, energy, sustainability. The Federation could benefit from all of it in return. Chen asked for something simple, a place to wake the colonists, to give them the new home they had waited 300 years for. The chamber erupted with murmurs and debates, but the tide had shifted. Curiosity now rivaled fear. Admiral Zexel stood and lent his voice to Chen's cause, reminding the council that the Aramis could have destroyed their fleet and chose instead to teach them that the Hyperion had arrived with weapons sheathed and hands open, that every action humanity had taken so far pointed not to conquest, but to cautious trust. High Counselor Ven finally addressed the chamber, his crystalline body glowing faintly as he spoke. You ask for territory for thousands of your people. Do you expect us to offer this freely after centuries of silence? Chen answered plainly, no, we expect to earn it. She displayed technical schematics from the Artemis database, revealing clean energy systems, sustainable food production, and medical breakthroughs that made their cryogenic technology possible. The chamber fell silent again this time, not out of fear but awe. It was not just a proposal, it was a partnership, and it offered something the Federation had long stopped hoping for: new answers to old problems. Later, as Chen and Rodriguez returned to the Hyperion news, arrived that the Integration Committee had approved settlement rights for 3 systems along the Void Belt. They were not gifts. They were opportunities, and the Federation, still cautious, had chosen to open the door slowly. Chen stood on the bridge, watching the Aramis as its systems came fully online, its garden domes glowing once more, its cryopods warming gently, preparing to welcome thousands of colonists into a galaxy far different from the one they had left behind. Rodriguez joined her holding a tablet filled with logistics. Updates, doctors, and engineers from the Federation were already collaborating with human teams, working side by side where once there had been only suspicion. Now there was progress, real, tangible steps forward. "It won't be easy," Rodriguez said, watching as the first cryopod opened and a pale, blinking colonist took their first breath in 3 centuries. The cultures, the timelines, the expectations, they're all going to clash. Chen nodded quietly. "The best things never are, but now we're building something more than ships, more than alliances. We're building a future that belongs to both of us, and maybe that's what humanity always needed, not just to survive, but to belong, not just to rebuild, but to contribute and to finally come home, even if it's a new kind of home among the stars." The Federation salvage fleet's return from the Void Belt had sent shockwaves through the political and scientific branches of the Galactic Council. No one had expected a derelict human ship to not only be operational but to overpower an entire task force. Without causing a single casualty, the Aramis, a colony ship long thought lost, had not just survived, but demonstrated intelligence, restraint, and a defensive system more advanced than anything in the Federation's arsenal. As the data poured in detailing its containment fields, AI-controlled drones, and sophisticated non-lethal countermeasures, a narrative began to form, one that challenged every assumption the Federation held about humanity. They were no longer just potential refugees or a forgotten race. They were now a technological anomaly, a mystery with untapped potential and deeply buried history. The Federation Council called for immediate clarification, and Admiral Zexel once again found himself in front of a wall of skeptical eyes. This time he came not to speculate, but to confirm the facts. The Aramis had been built as part of humanity's great exodus, a fleet of ships designed to carry the remnants of their species across the stars, each one equipped not just with the means of survival, but the mandate to protect its cargo at any cost. The Aramis had preserved over 50,000 humans in cryogenic sleep for 3 centuries and had remained functional without assistance all this time, maintaining its systems, repelling intruders, and upholding its final directive. The council chamber remained quiet as Zexel concluded, only to stir again when Captain Chen and Commander Rodriguez entered, responding to the council's request for a first-hand account. Chen stood tall and calm, her posture that of a leader used to pressure, but her eyes revealed the emotional weight of the moment she addressed the Federation, not as a threat, but as a representative of a civilization that had crawled out of extinction. "We did not build our ships to conquer," she said. "We built them because we had to survive. When Earth began to die, we faced a choice: allow our people to perish or carry them across the void, in hopes that somewhere out there we would find another chance." She went on to describe the desperation, the chaos, and the unimaginable burden of responsibility that had driven humanity to develop long-term cryogenic systems, artificial intelligence, and fully automated defense protocols, not as a luxury but as a necessity. Each ship carried not only people but art, music, science, and memory pieces of a lost world preserved in data cores and physical archives. Rodriguez presented a data crystal showing the current status of the Aramis all-cryopod stable self-repairing systems at 98% functionality power reserves, exceeding projected models by orders of magnitude. It was not a relic, it was a time capsule and a fortress wrapped in one. As the Council absorbed the implications, Chen offered a proposal. Humanity did not come seeking territory or dominance. She said, "We came offering cooperation. We are willing to share the knowledge we carried from Earth." systems to grow food in zero-gravity medicine that prolongs life energy solutions that do not damage ecosystems, innovations born from necessity, not abundance. And we believe that by working together, our species can benefit from what each other has learned. The chamber erupted in quiet discussion, many delegates speaking to each other in hushed tones. The technical schematics were already being reviewed by Federation analysts, and it was clear, even to the most skeptical, that the value of these technologies could not be dismissed. High Counselor Venn asked the question. Many were thinking, what assurances do we have that these systems are not simply tools of manipulation or domination? What happens if we allow your colonies to form and years later your people turn those tools against us? Chen answered plainly, because we remember what it means to lose everything, and we will not be the ones to take that from someone else. She motioned to the image of Earth displayed behind her, not the blue marble from ancient records, but the dying planet. It had become uninhabitable, burning its atmosphere, choked by centuries of misuse. We carry this image with us as a reminder of what we escaped and what we must never repeat. We do not come to rule, we come to belong. That word, belong, struck a chord with many. It was not a word conquerors used. It was the word of those who wanted connection, not control. The Federation agreed to attest 3 systems along the Void Belt were designated as provisional human colonies, a joint project where Federation and human experts would collaborate to settle, awaken, and reintegrate. The colonists aboard the Aramis Chen accepted the terms with humility, promising full transparency and continued communication during the process. As preparations began aboard the Hyperion, and the Aramis human engineers and Federation technicians worked side by side, evaluating systems, mapping cryo support networks, and preparing for mass reawakening. On the observation deck, Dr. Elena Santos, Chief Medical Officer of the Aramis and one of the first to awaken, stood in awe as the garden domes reactivated sunlight, simulated by advanced LED arrays, bathing the domes in life. We actually made it, she whispered. 300 years, and we're still here. Chen smiled beside her. You did more than make it. You gave us a legacy to build from, and now we're going to show the galaxy what that means. Together, Federation medical teams helped with the evaluation and re-entry of colonists into daily function, translating human vitals through their medical systems, while learning from centuries-old, yet still unmatched preservation techniques. The cooperation was unprecedented. Aliens and humans working not out of fear but shared purpose. Rodriguez approached with an update. The Federation's Integration Committee had approved full settlement status, pending completion of joint infrastructure targets, energy distribution, food generation, housing alignment, and mutual cultural liaisons. Chen nodded. The Federation is still nervous, he said. These systems are strategically placed along the border. They're giving us a chance, but also watching us. We've dealt with worse, she replied. If this is the price of peace, then it's a fair one. Back in the council, Chamber's discussions turned from fear to structure. Committees were formed to oversee the integration process. Ambassadors appointed to ensure smooth cultural exchange, and scientific boards established to facilitate the transfer of human innovations. Admiral Zexel addressed the council one final time, reminding them of what they had seen firsthand, that humanity's strength was not just in firepower, but in the choice to use that power with discipline and respect. The Aramis could have annihilated the salvage fleet, but chose to warn. Instead, the Hyperion could have ignored Federation protocols, but sought dialogue instead. These were not the actions of tyrants, but guardians. The Federation had learned a lesson in humility, and perhaps in trust. Chen closed the first session of the new Human Federation Alliance with a statement that would later be etched into the records of both civilizations. We survived because we believed in something more than ourselves. And now we invite you to believe in it too, not because we are perfect, but because we are willing to grow the lights aboard. The Aramis continued to flicker on one by one, awakening the past not as a threat, but as the beginning of a new shared future. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the center of the Hyperion's bridge, her gaze fixed on the live feed. Streaming in from the Aramis below them, the ancient colony ship was no longer a ghost, drifting silently through the void, but a fully reactivated vessel, pulsing with renewed life and purpose. The garden domes, once cloaked in centuries of dust, now glowed with artificial sunlight, the cryo chambers within steadily releasing their sleeping cargo one by one. Chen's expression remained calm, but her mind was racing with the implications behind her. Commander James Rodriguez read status reports from his tablet. Federation medical teams had fully integrated with human doctors working in unison to evaluate the reawakened colonists. The collaboration was not just functioning, it was flourishing systems. Built centuries apart by completely different civilizations, were somehow fitting together like pieces of a larger puzzle. 300 years, Rodriguez said, breaking the silence. That's how long they've been asleep. Chen nodded, her voice quiet but firm. 3 centuries drifting through hostile space, held together by systems that were written off as impossible by the rest of the galaxy. And yet, here they are waking up healthy, stable, and unaware that the world they once knew is gone, replaced by one, showing the colonists stirring some blinking in confusion, others crying softly as they recognized faces frozen in time. We hoped someone would find us or that we'd find something out there, but this. She shook her head. It's more than we imagined. Chen stepped beside her. What you built gave us the foundation to survive. Every ship we've made since has borrowed from the Aramis. Its resilience, its redundancy, even its philosophy. The belief that we were carrying not just people, but the essence of humanity. And that was worth protecting. Federation officers observed silently, taking notes, recording footage and translating vital readouts. They had expected artifacts. Instead, they found a culture alive and growing. Commander Rodriguez updated the group. The Federation Council has officially recognized the Aramis's colonists as sentient citizens under the Unified Galactic Charter. They're offering settlement rights in 3 nearby systems. Chen raised an eyebrow. They want to keep us close, Rodriguez replied, evenly close enough to monitor, but not so far they can't benefit from what we know. Chen considered the offer's strategic and political motives. Aside, it was still a win. The colonists would have land to build on, a home after centuries of drift and exile. That was more than they could have hoped for, and far more than Earth had left them. We'll accept, she said, then added, but the colonies must be joint ventures, Federation and human efforts side by side. If this is going to work, it has to be built on trust. Rodriguez relayed the message, and moments later, High Counselor Ven confirmed their agreement. The Federation Council was not fully united in their comfort with humans, but the advantages of cooperation were undeniable. Chen turned her attention back to Santos. The doctor was reviewing preliminary medical scans, her fingers moving quickly across a holographic interface. Their bodies are adjusting faster than expected. Metabolic rates are stabilizing within 10% of baseline. No signs of cryo degradation. It's almost as if time didn't touch them. That's thanks to you, Chen said. Your systems, your safeguards. Santos gave a modest shrug. We were desperate. Desperation can be a powerful motivator. To innovate, to solve problems no one thought could be solved when you're protecting the last seeds of a dying world. Failure is not an option. Chen felt a heavy silence settle in the room as her eyes locked onto a still frame of Earth, glowing softly in the ship's archive projection. Not the vibrant, world of legends, but the scarred husk they had left behind, unlivable and broken by centuries of abuse. Our world didn't just die. Chen said it forced us to become something else. Not conquerors, not victims, but architects of our own future. And now we're here asking to be part of something bigger. Rodriguez approached her quietly. The Federation has approved. The first tech exchange briefing, they're eager to see what we brought. Santos smiled. You might want to warn them. Some of our ideas were pretty radical even back then. Chen smirked. Let's surprise them. Federation scientists gathered in the Hyperion's primary briefing chamber, eyes wide with anticipation as holograms of ancient Earth tech filled the air. Agricultural solutions that allowed crops to grow in zero gravity, hydroponic systems that could feed millions, from orbit renewable energy generators capable of powering cities without planetary infrastructure, and cryogenic life support algorithms that had preserved human lives far beyond what modern science had deemed possible. The room buzzed with whispered translations and quiet disbelief. A Meridian biologist stepped forward, her crystalline body refracting excitement and awe. Your ancestors faced extinction and responded with design, not despair. She said they created solutions where others would have surrendered. Chen acknowledged the praise but redirected it. Survival wasn't optional when Earth fell. We had to preserve more than life. We had to preserve what made us human, our art, our science, our values, and that meant every ship had to be more than a vessel. It had to be a legacy, and the Aramis is one of the finest ever built. The data exchange expanded into an ongoing dialogue as Federation engineers began adapting human systems for cross-species use, and human scientists began learning about energy harmonics and materials that had once seemed like science fiction to them. Both sides learned, and both sides changed. Later that night, as the observation deck of the Aramis filled with light, Captain Chen stood beside Santos, watching more cryopods open, more faces return from the silence of centuries. Federation officers stood shoulder to shoulder with human crew, not as supervisors but as partners. Chen whispered to herself, this is what they dreamed of. Not just surviving the stars, but living in them with others, building something new, something lasting. Rodriguez approached, his voice low but resolute. The Federation is asking about the other ships, the Horizon, the Tethys. They want to help us find them. Chen looked out into the stars, a gentle hope stirring within her. Then let's find them, she said, and maybe this time we won't be alone. And in that moment, surrounded by the quiet hum of life returning and the first signs of real unity, Captain Chen knew that humanity's exile had finally ended. They had come not just to survive, but to belong, and that journey had only just begun. The Federation Council chamber had never been more quiet than in the aftermath of the full debrief regarding the incident with the Aramis. The weight of the report silenced even the most vocal representatives. The reality that a single human vessel lost to time had successfully disabled 15 Federation ships without inflicting a single casualty, and then departed peacefully, forced everyone to reevaluate their stance on humanity. No longer could they be seen as rumors or relics or survivors clinging to myths. They were now undeniably a power with the strength and the discipline to wield it responsibly. Captain Sarah Chen stood once again before the chamber, her calm voice carrying over the assembly as she explained that their ships were not weapons of war, but shields of survival born from a need to protect the last remnants of a dying world. Her words were not laced with arrogance, but with history. Every arc, every system, every defense was designed not with conquest in mind, but preservation. We did not build to fight, we built to endure. Because the void does not care about peace or hope, it only respects those who come. Prepared, her statement landed heavily in the minds of many. especially after seeing what the Aramis was capable of. Despite being centuries old, its systems still outperformed Federation standards. It had maintained power, protected life, and restrained itself in the face of potential aggression. High Counselor Ven asked directly why a vessel supposedly abandoned for generations could still operate on such a level, and Chen responded with honesty and clarity. Because we built it to last, because we had no one to rely on but ourselves. Earth was dying, and with it, the dreams of billions. We took what was left and forged the arcs to carry us through the unknown. And we did so with the assumption that no one would be there to help us if things went wrong. The Council shifted uneasily, understanding for the first time the desperation that drove humanity's innovation. They were not merely survivors, they were pioneers who had been forced into self-reliance and had turned that necessity into an unmatched technological advantage. A Valoran delegate challenged her, stating that such ships were clearly weapons in disguise, to which Chen replied with measured resolve, "If the Aramis were a weapon, your fleet would not be here today. It chose to teach, not destroy, and that was by design. Our AI systems are built to preserve life, even in the face of potential threats. That restraint is part of our legacy and part of the message we carry through space, that strength means nothing without control." Rodriguez stepped forward to offer additional clarification, presenting the technical logs from the incident. The data was irrefutable. The Aramis had used only a fraction of its potential capabilities, relying on EMP pulses, tractor fields, and containment spheres, all of which could have been lethal. But were not this level of precision required not only power, but a philosophy that prioritized protection over domination? Several delegates began to shift their perspective, realizing that they had misread the signs. That the strength humanity displayed was not hostile. It was defensive, calculated, and born from necessity. As the chamber began to murmur again with renewed questions, Chen raised her voice. "We are not here to ask for trust. We are here to earn it through action and cooperation. We are offering what we have learned, what we have built, and in return we seek only the opportunity to wake our people and find a place among the stars." The murmurs turned to thoughtful discussion as holographic schematics of human technologies were displayed on the central screen. Medical advancements, cryogenic stasis breakthroughs, sustainable agriculture, and energy systems that operated independently of planetary resources, innovations that could uplift entire regions of the Federation, not over years but months. The implications were staggering, and even the most cautious among the Council could not deny the benefits of integration. After a period of deliberation, the Council voted to approve a. Later, as she returned to the Hyperion Bridge, Rodriguez greeted her with a satisfied nod. "We're in," he said, officially, "and maybe even welcome." Chen looked over the star chart, now updated with the coordinates of their new settlements. Small glowing markers on the map that represented not just destinations, but hope. The Aramis continued to wake its colonists, the medical teams working around the clock to ease the transition from cryo-sleep to active life. And for the first time in centuries, families once separated by time and distance were being reunited. Their reactions were captured in quiet moments of joy, awe, and disbelief as they learned how long they had slept and how much had changed. Santos, the chief medical officer of the Aramis, walked beside Chen through the main cryo chamber, watching as the pods opened in sequence. "These people trusted us," she said. "And we didn't fail them," No Chen agreed. "And now they have a chance to live in a galaxy that is finally ready to meet them, not as relics, but as a calculated risk on both sides." The Federation was extending trust, but also protecting its interests, and humanity was choosing to believe that this time they were not alone in their search. The bridge of the Hyperion became a hub of coordination as updates flowed and colonies being prepared support systems being established, integration plans being drawn not by conquerors or overlords, but by diplomats, engineers and families seeking a second chance. In the observation deck, Chen watched the stars, knowing that the journey they had begun centuries ago was entering its next phase, not of desperation but of belonging. They had proven their worth not through force, but through resilience. And now the real work of coexistence could begin not as a concession but as a shared vision of the future. Humanity had come to the stars armed with memory and fire, but now they carried something even stronger: purpose and a willingness to build bridges instead of walls. And for the first time, the galaxy seemed, and Federation worked side by side, guiding the colonists through their first steps in a galaxy that had changed beyond recognition. Dr. Santos, still processing the magnitude of what they had accomplished, whispered, 300 years asleep and they're waking up like we just left Earth last week. Chen nodded, her voice low and steady. You built them well, better than anyone could have expected. The Federation is still running diagnostics, trying to figure out how these systems held together so flawlessly. Santos smiled faintly. It wasn't magic, it was necessity. We knew there wouldn't be second chances when we left. We packed every line of code, every nanowire, with the assumption that no one would be around to fix it. Later, that this ship would have to carry us across centuries alone, and it did. Rodriguez joined them, his expression unreadable as he held out a new transmission from the Federation Council. The colonists have been granted full settlement rights. He said, 3 star systems,